everyone. Welcome to the Femme Tell All podcast. We are so happy you're here. And I'm Madison Bellissimo.
And I'm Ruth Devereaux.
And today we're discussing when you know it's time to leave a relationship.
Yes, it's tough.
It's a tough one.
It is tough. And we understand there's a lot of different circumstances out there that might keep you in a relationship. A lot of times there's circumstances like kids or finances or just history with somebody. But that doesn't mean that it's right to stay in something. Even if you have children, a lot of times you might be setting the wrong standard for them of what a relationship looks like if you stay in the wrong one. So what we want to dig into, we're going to use a lot of our examples today of past relationships we've been in, what the red flags were, when we should have left, when we actually left, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is your biggest takeaway from leaving a relationship that you felt once you left, you went, wow, I could have done this earlier?
I think time wasted, for sure. I think pain ensued through that process.
Sure.
And I think also the healing process takes longer, right? Like the longer you stay in something you're not supposed to be in, the more pain you go through in that relationship, the harder it is to come out in the end, and the longer it takes for you to be ready to find that person that is right for you.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's one thing that's so scary is I think we all worry about time wasted in general, right? Like, and that's why sometimes people rush out of a relationship too, in the same regard.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time when you're out of something, like whether it be a job or something like that, obviously we're talking about specifically relationships right now. But yeah, you go like, what did I miss? What could I have had?
Yeah.
Was I not experiencing my the life to the fullest?
Totally. And I remember in the last relationship I was in that I would call the most toxic relationship I've ever been in, I remember my friend telling me, and actually the previous relationship person telling me, he's like, think of who you might be missing by staying in this relationship. Like, who are you not meeting? What opportunities are you not giving yourself because you're staying in something that's not healthy for you?
That's so true.
Yeah.
And also, like, just energy speaking, if you are in a toxic relationship, for example, and you're not getting out of it, and again, let us be clear, you can't always get out of it by yourself. Sometimes you need friends. Sometimes you need programs. You know, we don't want this to be like, your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner sucks, get the fuck out. Like, it's not that simple. And like you said, there are so many aspects that play into it. But if you know you want to get out, you know you can get out, and you're kind of just worried about the confrontation or like something like that, you're perpetuating this like awful energy in your life. And it's like, the biggest comparison I can make is like when your room is messy and the clutter feels like in your mind. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like if you're around someone that's like an energy sucker or something like that, and it bleeds into other aspects of your life.
Absolutely.
And I think it's not just mental health. It a lot of the time, like it affects your physical health or your job or your friendships or things like that. Yeah.
I mean, I'll use the two examples that I have. So for me, the longest term relationship I was ever in was 13 years. And we were together for a long time. We broke up a lot of times in between too. He wasn't a bad guy. Yeah. We just didn't work. We didn't connect. And we're still friends to this day. But I think the first red flag for me was us breaking up in the first place and then getting back together. Not to say that other people haven't been able to get back together and it works out perfectly. Yeah. For us, it wasn't. And it was just proof that we cared about each other, but we weren't the right partners for each other. Also, we didn't align on certain things, like certain ways that we wanted our partner to be. Like my partner now is super verbally affectionate for me and very loving. My ex was just not that way. Not that way at all.
At all, dude. I'm not laughing at your expense. It's just like the stark difference. And we've both done that. Like we both are words of affirmation girlies.
Yes, tell me you love me.
And we've both dated guys that were literally like Stonewall would not even say we were cute. We were like, but he likes me. And he did. Like, obviously, they both really liked us. Yeah. Yours loved you. Yeah. I think mine liked me. But, like, I think that's one of those things that, like, we gave them so many excuses. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that they're wrong for not being able to compliment us. No. But when those things are not aligning, it feels like such a stark difference. Like, it feels like
you're constantly starved for it, right?
Oh, yeah. Boy, was I starved.
I'm hungry.
Literally. I was like, anything? like a shrivel of affection. Yeah, no, literally.
Well, and that's the thing. So I think it's like aligning with your partner. And if you realize that you guys don't, and it's not that that person doesn't want to, but just can't because it's just not who they are, it's not the right partner for you. Yeah. And it is still hard to leave at that point. We spent many years together. We built a life together. We bought houses together. Like, and we were friends. Like like that was the thing. Like you felt love for somebody and it was hard to recognize, even though I love this person, it's not the type of love that I want as a partner.
Damn. You're hitting my buzzwords for why I took so long to get out of a relationship. And not so long. I don't know if he watches this, but my longest, my longest term ex-boyfriend, we were together just shy of 4 years. And I definitely knew I needed to get out of the relationship before we did. Know? I would say maybe 2 months before I broke up with him, which I know that sounds horrible, but I think it's 2 months is when I started questioning. Okay. I was like, oh, this is the first time, because the entirety of our 4 years together, I was like in love with this man. And even when we had hit roadblocks, there was one point where I was like, maybe we're going to break up because of his mental health was at a pretty low point, and I just felt like I couldn't help him, and he wasn't letting me help him, and he wasn't seeking help otherwise. And I was like, we're at a crossroads here. Like we can only do so much, but we even got through that and like no problem, because we, at the end of the day, we loved each other so much. We were like, we're going to figure it out. But not until, like 2 months prior to me breaking up with him was when I started getting the like, it's time. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh, I think I love him. I'm not in love with him anymore. And I was like, that was heartbreaking, especially because he was my best friend, similar to how you're talking about your ex. When you're in a long-term partnership like that, you so much together. You're best friends. Like even if you have your
worlds
girls
revolve around each other, right? Like every essence and every aspect of your life is intertwined with this person.
We lived with our partners, both of us. Yeah. Mine was super, super involved with my family. Yeah. And that is something that is really important to me. And my family also loved him, like truly still does. And like it was really hard because it was like, how do I break this off? He's my best friend. Yeah. Not only do I not want to have that anymore, I don't want to not be around him all the time because I do still adore him so much. Yep. But I was like, I don't want to hurt one of the closest people to me in my life. Like that is so devastating. Yeah. Like knowing that you're going to be at the hand of some incredibly horrible news. Yeah. I remember just like having to differentiate the like, do I love him or am I still in love with him? Yeah. And that was like, that became abundantly clear in those 2 months that I still loved him so much, and I would do anything for him. I would have taken a bullet for him, but I was like, I'm not in love with him anymore.
Were there red flags prior to that 2 month mark?
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't even say red flags. I would say beige flags. That's the shittiest part is like, it like wasn't a bad relationship. Yeah. He's objectively a good person. He cared about me. Obviously, we both had shortcomings that we brought to the table that didn't always align. Yeah. One thing that like, I'll tell a little anecdote. One thing that like really solidified it for me, which is such a small thing, but maybe as a woman you'll relate. One of the last times I had gotten invited to this big event that was like a nice dress up situation. He didn't go with me. I was going. I was working with a producer on a personal project I was funding at that time, so it was a big deal for my career. I also was like trying to look good. I was trying to show up. I was going with all men too to this event. And I remember getting dressed up and I was in a new dress and I was like, all right, I'm going. And he was like, okay, have fun. Oof. And I was like, he like, and he was not even recognized. Like it was a big, important event. And like, at the very least, like not even like, you look good, baby, give a little twirl, like nothing. Yeah. And he used to be like that. Like there was like one point where I did a photo shoot and he had like taken my phone while I was driving and was like, to the Instagram story. It was like, that's my girlfriend. That's my girlfriend. The one that you're liking her pictures. That's mine. Like, and it was super cute. It wasn't obsessive. It was like really sweet. And like that was his normal reaction. He always complimented me. So for him to be like, all right, have a good one. And I was like, oh, like, do you even see me anymore? Like you're getting complacent. Right. And I'm 23. Like I am in my like, not even prime yet.
No.
I'm not, but I was like, I'm a young woman who's going out with all these men to this thing.
Well,
and
just the recognition period. I think, and it's also the action changing, right? On either side. As soon as you see that you are like
shifting.
You're losing that drive for somebody. Again, like there is ways to get it back. And like I think that's why I don't think the 2 months is that bad of a thing. Like you try to work through it. You see what you can kind of like resolve or like kind of come to like ahead at. And like, but if you can't, then don't waste any more time. Like get out, like live like you want the best love you can have in your life if that's what your goals are in life.
Totally. Yeah. I agree with you. And I think to your point, like if they're not able to change behavior and like it's not a test. Like I was thinking in those 2 months, like, well, maybe he'll figure it out. Like maybe and it wasn't like I was trying to withhold information from him. I wasn't like acting like everything was peachy keen and then was like, and by the way, I'm breaking up with you. Like I didn't want it to be like that. But I was like, he's just not having this awareness of his usual behavior to me. Like I remember our last date we went on, like I paid for the movie. I did all this stuff. And like, we would always go to movies. That was something that like we loved doing. And I remember he just like, we already had a hard time with, I paid for a lot, or at least that was something that like I was
very used to in that relationship.
I was very used to that. And like I remember we went to a movie and we were getting popcorn and candy that was like $12, something like that. And I remember I had bought the movie I had taken us to dinner or something like the night before or something like that. So I was like, oh, he's gonna at least buy the concessions. Like we kind of try and he would toggle behind. And I remember he just like, I was checking out and he like just came up and kissed me from behind and then was like, thanks baby. Okay. I'll see you in there. And I was like, like I remember just like now once your goggles are off, right?
Of course. Well, that's
like,
the thing
oh
too.
my God,
it's like stepping outside for a little bit because like when you're so used to certain environment, a lot of times you overlook certain things that if I use my toxic relationship, I remember my friend saying, get away for 6 months. Yeah. And then come back to me and we'll have a real conversation because your mind is too convoluted right now.
And it is and it's small stuff too. Like it can be as extreme as like a toxic relationship where you're literally being manipulated, and brainwashed. Yeah. Or it can be something as simple as I was used to him doing that. Totally. And like maybe on an average day, I wouldn't have like thought twice about it. Yeah. And I just happened to because now my goggles were off and I was starting to notice where there was some shortcomings. Yeah. And it wasn't that he didn't pay. It wasn't like, oh, he couldn't pay. It's not that. It was the fact that he was no, it was the fact that he was just
concessions.
It was just the fact that he's assuming, you know? It was like Maddie will take care of it. That's how it always was. Yeah. And like I'm not saying he didn't take care of things. Like he was such a giving partner in so many ways. In ways that I needed.
Do you think that's why it meant more to you when he didn't even recognize like you getting dressed up? Because like if he wasn't providing in one area and then also not providing in that area, there's like it's too much to like this isn't a partnership at that point.
You're 1,000% correct. Yeah, that's why I was. I was like, you're not even complimenting me anymore. Yeah. Like I was like, that's our thing. Like we like, and it wasn't like he complimented me and I never. You know, it's like we would do-si-do and do our own things, but we were each other's cheerleaders. Like that was the whole thing. Like the reason I was in this relationship for so long was like I truly felt so loved by him day in and day out, and it was never materialistic. Like literally never materialistic. And it wasn't even like this physical, like, oh my God, we're obsessed with each other. But we had such a deep bond and we loved each other so deeply, and I felt so loved and cared for by him and respected. That is something that never went away. I will say, like, I need to give him credit there. He is someone that does respect women. He's really good at, like, I always felt seen and taken care of in that way, mentally and emotionally. Yeah. But yeah, once it was like, this is my love language. He knows that it's my love language. And he's just like, bye, babe. Yeah. I'm like,
and I feel like sometimes those are the harder ones to recognize and get out of because it isn't this like stark, like, oh my God, you need to leave. Yeah. It's just like, okay, we're not aligning. And I think that makes it harder to know the time to go. Totally. Yeah. And like to feel okay about leaving and not blame yourself for going, do I try harder? Do I do this? Do I do that? And I think it's like any goal setting in your life, right? You make that list of this is what matters to me in this relationship. Yeah. Are they meeting these needs? Yeah. What do I want to try to do? Yeah. And if it isn't being met, giving yourself a time limit too, because like we only have one life, and to consistently waste it in a scenario that we're not being met in, like that's the worst thing you can do for yourself. And again, I always talk about, like, I understand kids are a different aspect, but my parents are divorced, and I'm so happy they're divorced, because my dad would not have been a good role model for me to be around, and their relationship wouldn't have been a good role model for me to be around. It was better that they separated. It was better that I had a different upbringing than them trying to force something that wasn't working.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I think that you're not alone there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, even though divorce is obviously devastating in so many ways, I think it really can be, weirdly enough, a tool.
Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds awful to say, but like, if you're not aligned, like, I've heard so many times of like, we'll just stay together for the kids. And it's like,
it's the worst example.
You hate your life now.
Yeah.
You are so like hard to be around now because you don't like your everyday life. You don't like your partner. You're not getting, and it's like, let's talk about the like hierarchy of needs. Like, you're not happy. You're not sleeping with someone. You're not doing like those. That's a big that takes
aspect.
into consideration. Like, you are not happy in so many aspects of your life, and now that could affect your parenting. Let alone the environment that if you guys are fighting all the time, that's not like a really healthy environment to be around. If you're a kid, like, you're just kind of like, what's going on?
Well, again, I don't think we're touting like you run at the first sign of problems. Like, you definitely try to work things out. You set those goals, like we were just saying, but you have to like make sure in the end, if it's not working, you don't sit in this like pain and just continually live in that and become that. And then your child takes that on as well.
Yeah. I think like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're kind of getting at is like, there's no need to settle. Like, and I know that that's kind of an extremist view of this, because obviously there are so many aspects that go into it, but you don't need to settle for a life that's just, you know, that's just like, I'm getting by, I'm doing this. Like, you don't have to run at the first sight of an issue, like you're saying, but there is a very good, like, healthy aspect of, if you are truly at the end of the day not really excited about the kind of life that you're living and the people, you can make a change.
Yeah.
You can, at any age,
at any age,
you know, like
at any age,
you really can. And it's like, it's going to be better for everyone. And like, sometimes that death of the old you can affect the people in your life, you know, in a negative way, where they're like, you used to always be like this. Like, you used to always let me walk all over your boundaries. You know, like,
how dare you?
Yeah, like, how dare you set a boundary, you know? That's usually the
well,
case.
And that's a great point too. Like, so even setting boundaries, if you're in a relationship where you've never given boundaries, and that's kind of like what's led to this, and then you feel like, okay, let me try to set those, your partner should meet you there as well. And like, that can be kind of like a good testing ground for you to say, like, go to them. Yeah. This is what I need from you. This is what I want. This is what I'm asking for as a partner. And then see if they're willing to meet you there.
Totally.
I think anybody that loves somebody will always at least be willing to listen and try.
Yeah. At least try once, right? Or try for a week, try for a month, whatever like, you know. And I think a lot of people, like, when I knew it was time, because I was so young, I was like, oh shit, well, I could have married this guy. Like, you know, I was going back and forth on that. And when I broke up with him, I told him, I was like, I didn't think this was going to be as impactful as it was. And later on, when him and I had reconvened and talked about it, he was like, that really stuck with me. And I was like, heard. I said, like, could I stay with you and be happy? Yes. Would I be the happiest version of myself? No. And I remember he was like really taken back. And I think that's why he didn't fight for it. You know, he heard that, and he truly heard it, and was like, it's too gone. Like, it's too far gone. I've done the damage. And he even like reflected on that when we had reconvened.
I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, he was again, he was very mature at that age, you know, to be like, okay, I have to hear her. She's saying,
and
you know,
from it.
We didn't even have any, like, he was like, there's no one else. I was like, no. And he was like, and I didn't like hurt you or, and I was like, no, it's just, I can't do it anymore, you know?
That's another great point, too. Like, you might be holding somebody back from growth that they need. Yeah. In staying and accepting something because they're not even aware of it. That's such a good point. And so it's almost like, that's almost a lesson that they need to go through to grow to be the person that they should be. Yeah. Yeah. No,
I mean, I think he has, hopefully. Yeah. And I think, you know, you would want that for any partner. Yeah, like, anytime you let someone go, like, and it was a cordial breakup. Yeah. You would hope that it would be like, I want the best for you. Absolutely. Right? Yeah. I think we need to maybe get into more the toxicity of things. Because
and those are much harder. And we understand that. And I will say, the relationship that I would consider my toxic relationship, I fully understood in the end and will never judge a woman for not leaving because of the mental stress and the strain that you go through and confusion and just I would never judge anybody ever again, and I hope nobody out there is feeling judged or judging, because until you go through a situation like that, you do not understand how hard it is to get out, because you cannot think straight. You do not understand what's going on. You do not, there is a fear that exists in you that even if you verbalize, nobody can fully relate to.
Yeah. And you, thank you for saying that, because I think people need to hear that. But it's also, and like sharing, you know, from your own personal experience, but like you get to a point where you're so manipulated or so gaslit or so you start, your brain is being rewired.
Yeah. I was telling Maddie the other day about this toxic relationship where we were living together at this time and we got bed bugs. And I was the only one getting bit. And I was literally getting welts everywhere. And I was freaking out. He wasn't helping me at all, like in trying to resolve the issue. I was like ordering products. Like I had to order a brand new bed. And all he kept telling me is it was in my head. And like, it was there was something like I was doing wrong, or like I was crazy, and like making fun of me for like literally sleeping with socks over my hands, just trying to cover up as much as possible because I was literally getting eaten up every night, and it was in my head. Yeah.
Gaslighting, insensitive, putting you in a dangerous position. Like
one of many.
There's like, you know, it's just like the things keep adding up, right? And at that time, did you think like
No.
You don't think to.
No, and the thing is you just keep acting. You're just like, okay, I'll take care of it. I'll do this. I'll do that. Or he's stressed about that. Like blah, blah. Like every excuse in the book.
You give them excuses.
And then there is that just like roundabout of like, then once it's like resolved, like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't know. Like, but like,
usually they won't even take any accountability. They'll just be like, I didn't think it was bed bugs. And you're like,
well,
okay,
yes, it was a sorry company.
Okay. I mean, that's still, the bar is in hell. Okay. If we're like, he did say sorry. He did say sorry. And I do this all the time. I'm not giving you shit. No. I'm like, the bar is in fucking hell. Because what the fuck, these guys are not guys. It's everyone. I'm not trying to make this a male issue. This is not a men issue. No, like I think everyone you can be in a toxic relationship no matter your gender, no matter your sexuality.
Definitely.
Like,
and we've seen it in so many different people, even around us. And like, again, for me now, I have so much sympathy and like understanding for people that struggle and getting out of those.
Totally.
I will say one thing. I'm not going to say this is constant, but most people that I know that are in a toxic relationship did not want to date that person in the first place.
Fucking facts, dude. Like, I didn't want to date. I almost just said his name. I didn't want to date him originally.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to date him.
I hid this person from my friends for a long time.
Were like embarrassed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like, okay, that's not the hard fast rule, but it just happened. It just happened.
If you're really
maybe your body is telling you something, you know, because I mean, it's hard, and we do like
not to make light of the situation.
God,
for anybody that is going through this, I want to like bring it back to the fact of like, I see you, we care for you, and I know it's tough to get out.
Yeah,
I want to like kind of go over the red flags that I saw, at least on my side, that instantly like how somebody handles conflict is massive. Mm-hmm. If somebody cannot talk through conflict or come to a resolution, that is a problem across the board in any relationship. If it turns to yelling consistently, if it turns to name calling, if it turns to you being put down, that is a problem off the bat. And that happened almost instantly in this relationship.
Yeah.
But was consistently followed by flowers, by apologies, by like begging for me to forgive, and me consistently forgiving. So that to me is instant number one red flag of toxic, abusive relationship.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think one thing that I've seen a lot too is a clear and blatant game plan to isolate you from your friends and family. And I've seen that in friends, you know, like multiple friends.
Yeah. I mean, I think we went to therapy one time, and I told our therapist, I was like, he hates all of my friends. He puts down all of my friends, and he goes, I don't like anybody that she hangs out with. Like, they're all losers. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, everything was...
They start doing it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They create a rhetoric, right? So they'll either be like, your family doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care like I do. It's always like, it's us against the world, baby.
Yeah.
And not, you can obviously, you and Neil, I would say, have an us against the world. And like,
baby.
Yeah. But I don't feel like it's toxic at all. I've never witnessed it in a toxic way. But I've seen that so inherently in so many toxic relationships where they try to isolate you from your friends and family. And it's one way to make you start.
He called my mom.
You're in an echo chamber. You're in an echo chamber.
Told her that I was the devil, but nobody else could see it but him. That like I was like this evil person, but I hid it from the world and only he could see it.
What?
Another
Not Will. Will is yelling. It's insane though. Like
and it sounds like insane when we talk about it in these factors and like but it was like I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get out and I was just so confused and I think then also my actions started like being outside of who I normally was, being completely different
fucking
person.
show you crazy.
Yeah.
I'll fucking show you crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
God.
so then you end up becoming somebody that you're not. And like now, like again, being far removed from that situation, thank God, I can look back and go, oh my God, I wasn't me. I wasn't who I am. Like I'd gotten so far away from that. And now I like I feel like sad for that person.
Of course.
But I had to exit and I had to be away from it. And I had to like even like circumvent a lot of people that were a part of that world.
Yeah. Because I'm sorry, I'm going to say some things. Okay. Some people that allow this behavior to happen around them and are okay with that and are friends with these harassers, these abusers, and they let them do this. I'm sorry, but you're a part of the problem. Yeah. You're not better than the abuser. Yeah. You're allowing this to happen. You're not reporting it. You're not helping out the victim that's in these situations. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you, but I'm like, I've had so many stories that you've been a part of where that person's friend group turned a blind eye to blatant abuse, physical and emotional, in public. Yep. And they just went, well, he's kind of like that. Yeah. He gets a little angry when he's drunk. Yeah. And it's not okay. And we need this to be abundantly clear. This is where, like, I mean, and it trickles down in so many ways into men abusing women and like men, the friend groups being like, well, I didn't know he was that bad of a dude. Like, yeah, I knew he kind of gets a little like possessive. Yeah. And you're like, if you see his behavior in person, in public like this, what do you think is happening behind closed doors? You think it's better?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember even one time him saying that he told one of his friends that he had pushed me onto the hood of the car. And his friend goes, yeah, I've pushed my girlfriend before. Like, it was just like this passive thing. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And I hopefully never will understand. Yeah. Like, I don't think I ever will. I just think that it does have to be accountability for people around anybody in this like type of mentality as well. Just like now it's the rhetoric of like, if your friends are cheaters, then like you need to stand up and say like, I don't agree with that. If your friends are abusers, you need to stand up and say, I don't agree with that. You need to set a standard and say like, I don't want to be your friend if this is how you treat women.
I won't associate with someone like that.
You. Yeah.
How could you? And obviously no one's perfect. And sometimes, especially in friendships that start from a young age, which I feel like a lot of male friendships start from a very young age. It's like a lot of like, well, we've been best friends since grade school, you know? And like, they feel like they can't cut the ties because they're like, oh, they're not like, they're not really bad guys.
Right. But they're not bad to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if you see them treat women like this, if you see them treat partners like this, other men like this, if they're starting fights every time you go to a bar. Yeah. Maybe get your friend into anger management. I don't know. Like,
or something. Or just separate yourself. Like that, I think for people like that, like that's a big enough, like if you lost people around you that said, I don't agree with this behavior, that would be a big enough thing for them to maybe change. Just like leaving a relationship and then somebody gaining a lesson. Like you're the same person as a friend. Like you have to like help your friends learn lessons. Yeah. It's not standing idly by and saying this is okay.
Yeah. I would hope, I hope you're right. Like, I hope that they would change from that. Like, I think it is kind of similar to cutting off the oxygen to a fire, right? Like, if they are able to flourish in any environment doing the behavior and people are not calling them out, the fire is going to get bigger. Yeah. If you start going like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't do that. You can't treat people like that. You can't just blow up in someone's face. You can't throw a drink on someone. You can't. And you start cutting out that behavior or cutting your access to them, they're going to start, they have to start diminishing.
And speaking back to like people that might be experiencing this, I understand the fear that comes with it. Like, honestly, even sitting here talking about it on a public forum, there's a lot of fear that still exists in me. But I'm telling you, like, separating yourself, you feel so much better on a day-to-day than you'll ever feel in that situation.
Yeah, totally. And you're so brave. Honestly, you truly are. Like, I can't believe we haven't cried on this podcast yet.
Like so close.
Close during this episode because I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I really am, and it's just like so upsetting. This topic is so upsetting. I'm gonna try and keep it together. But I think one thing that's really upsetting about this is I met this man, and one thing that was really hard is one of the first times I had come over your place, he like interrupted our girls' night, and he surprised us, and he dressed it up in this cute little like, oh, the girls are over, let me go pick you guys up some food. And he picked us up food, and he called you in the middle of our girls' night, and you were like, oh, I thought you were gonna stay out. And he was like, well, I was in the neighborhood. You weren't in the fucking neighborhood, my guy, first of all. And you heard, she said she was going to have her friends over. Respect that. Yeah. And he literally was like, obviously, he's abusive. So there's many layers to this. But that is a fact. That is not an opinion, by the way. He called you and was like, I'm going to bring you guys dinner. I'm going to just buy all this shit. And he just would throw money at stuff all the time. He did that a lot, And he came and he interrupted our night. And I thought he was going to just drop off the food and go, which would have been a nice gesture. But I was still like, why is he doing that? Yeah. We have food, you know? And he dropped off the food and he stayed. He parked his ass on the couch with us and was like, so what's going on? What are you guys talking about? Yeah. And that's where I'm saying they really try to intercept every single portion of your life, your work life, your family life, your friends, to manipulate you and to manipulate the narrative because they don't want you saying something. He 1000% didn't trust you enough to not like say something that like, and I truly in my heart believe that he knew that you wouldn't complain to us. Yeah. But I think he was smart enough to know that you could have mentioned something and we would have been like, what did you just say? Yeah. You know, like it would have perked our ears up and we would have been like, are you okay? Yeah. What's going on?
That's the thing too. Like it's the secrecy that comes with that too, right? Like you don't tell everybody everything because you know. Yeah. And like there was this narrative he'd created in his head that I've told everybody everything. And it wasn't until it got to a certain point that I was finally like, I have to say something. Yeah. And then I started telling people, and then it was like, oh, you're just making me look bad. Like, I can't make you look bad if you're not doing these things.
Again, not a fucking story. This ain't fiction, bitch. You're not a fucking villain. Yeah. You are a villain, but you're doing it. Like, I'm not painting this story about you would constantly underplay stuff. And, like, I totally understand why. I really do. Like, you were trying to protect him because you did love him at the end of the day. You know, you were in this relationship because you wanted to be with this person and you wanted to believe that he was better than that.
Yeah. And the thing is, you see slivers of that, right? Yeah. You see slivers of like, no, they care about me. Yeah. No, they want to do this. But then it's always compounded with the negative, the name calling, the put downs, like everything but I love you. Yeah.
It's the bait and switch. They really do. It's this thing.
It's such a confusing cycle. That's why it's like you never know your left from your right. You're like, where do I stand right now? Where am I? Like,
and I think when they make you feel worthless. Yeah. Right? In so many words. I'm not trying to say that no. But if they make you feel some type of worthless and then they go, but I love you. Yeah. And see, it's just us, baby. Yeah. You start cutting other people out.
There was the narrative, too, of, like, nobody's going to love you as much as I do. Nobody will.
I'm sorry. How? First of all, look at her. You're fucking insane. Any man, I could whistle. And 10 men would line up around the buck. And we'd be like, hey, Ruth, what's up? I'll give you your best life. And they wouldn't because they're not needed. Okay? I love when I make Ruth laugh. She's the best laugh. She's the best laugh. But it's true. What the fuck? Yeah. You are insane. First of all, let's not even get into it. I'm not even going to be mean because I could talk some shit on this man. And let me be clear. If you watch this, I will find you and I will redacted statement here. Okay? I can't. This is a serious subject, obviously. I want everyone to know.
I feel very blessed that I had such a strong group of friends that, like, once I was out of it, the best thing that Madison ever said to me, and I hope if you have a friend going through this at all, she would say to me, you are not required to tell me everything. I am just your friend and I am here for you. Mm-hmm. And that was like the best thing for me at that time because I didn't know what to say, how to say it, and like I didn't know where the support could come from.
Yeah.
But when she gave me that open door, like I was able to tell her everything. And like I opened up most to you out of everybody during that time and still now.
I feel so fortunate, truly. And like, I remember, after one of the many incidences, I felt so helpless because you do when you love your friend and you don't know how to get them out. And like, that's a whole other aspect of it. Yeah. And I remember I stayed to my friend, Noah. She recommended this and she's very smart for it. And I got on the abuse hotline and I was like, hi, I need advice. Like, I have a friend that's in an abusive relationship. She will not report him. Like, and I understand why. I love you so much. And I literally, of course I'm going to do that. I want you alive at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's like, that's how it has to be. And like, you care about the people in your life and you want to take care of them, but like, you can only, pull them off the ledge as much as you can, and it's like, I did not once blame you for staying with him. And it's so hard when people do, and I get it when you're like, fucking leave him,
Right. Well, and that is like, I think the narrative for so many people that just hear the anecdotes from the outside. And it's so much harder when you're in it, because you're so confused. Yeah. And so.
No, thank you so much for sharing this, truly. Like, and I think your story will help others, hopefully. And like, truly, like when I say, once you did get out of it, it was like, hallelujah, the gates opened, well, and then
it's just like, just to give anybody that's going through this, like, hope, like, my life dramatically changed. Dramatically in every aspect of the word, not even in just my relationship. Like, yes, like, now I am so happy and so elated that I have the partnership that I have. My career took off. Like, I started working more. Like, life just became better in every sense of the word. Like, I worked out more. I got more fit. Like, everything I could have done, but I was so bogged down because I was like, that was my focus all the time, was taken off, and I was able to then soar so much higher. Yeah. And it was really scary to leave, and it was really scary to walk into the unknown again. It was really scary to like have those stories that were told to me for a number of years still exist in my head that I had to teach myself weren't true. And so I hope that you guys, if you're going through this, recognize that there is a much better life to be lived.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not like my only example of that. Yeah. I have other friends that directly just got out of abusive relationships, that like.
Oh, yeah.
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 Oh. You can tell Ruth knows what I'm talking about now. And unfortunately, that person that got out of the relationship, fortunately, I'm talking to them so much more because they were isolated from me.
So
isolated from me.
Let's talk about that really quick too. If you feel like your partner is isolating you, that is never okay. And there is always a reason why. It is not a positive. They do not just seemingly wanting to protect you from everybody. You need people in your life. You can't have one person. Yeah. And if somebody says they can only be your one person and nobody else, that is a red flag and you need to seek help.
Facts. There's our mic drop. There's our Ruth mic drop for the day. But it's true. And they had been isolated from their friends, namely me. And I had been in their life for 13 years, 14 years. Now I think we're on 15. But yeah, it was insane. And now I hear from them a lot more. And the stark difference.
Time I've seen them,
yeah.
From the one time I saw them before to now, completely different person.
Like literally different person. Like a weight is lifted, like happy and genuinely like joy.
Yeah.
And like I've never, like we went out for my birthday and this person used to not be able to come out for my birthday because their partner didn't want to go. Didn't want them to go. Like,
and they could never go alone.
Never could go alone to things. Like even if they planned to go alone and they were like, yeah, absolutely, you should go out with Maddie and do that. The like hour before it was going to happen, they'd be like, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. I need to come with you.
Yeah.
And it was just always like that. Yeah. And this person came to my birthday, obviously, because they're one of my best friends. And they came to my birthday this year and they were dancing and having fun. And we were on the floor like, and it was like so good. And I just like, I haven't seen them light up like that in so long. And literally they didn't go through they went through this breakup very recently.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's how quickly
it can change.
You take yourself out of that environment.
Yes, absolutely. And on that note, no, truly, like we want to encourage people, and I'm still going to let Ruth wrap this up because she's perfect at wrapping up every episode. But I want to say before we do that, you aren't alone. And like, if you do feel like you're being isolated, if you feel like there's maybe a better aspect of your life that you could pursue, greener pastures, whatever, what have you. And it's on the spectrum of me where it was like, I love this person, but I'm not in love with them anymore, to the extreme of like, I'm potentially in an abusive relationship. Please seek help. Please turn to your friends, your family, your support systems. We are going to I want to put in our, the description of this episode, we're going to put some hotlines that you guys can reach out to because it is so important. There is someone always out there to talk to you and give you advice. There's therapy. There are psychiatrists. There are so many professionals that can help you. Doctors.
So many times, and we're not therapists in any way or form, but like we are also here. And if you just need somebody to talk to, if you just need some advice or just like just an outlet that you know isn't a part of the group that might get back to your friend, whatever that is, like please
reach out to us.
That you have advocates here.
Yeah. And we really appreciate you listening to this and going through the journey, because it is, I know we laughed a little in this episode, even though it's so heavy and we've cried. But that's life, you know? Yeah. And if you can't do it with your friends and the people that care about you, you're not able to do it and like at all. Like, you know, like you don't get to go through it and you have a harder time really experiencing life to the fullest. So we encourage you to do so. And now, Ruth, do you have anything last words?
I just want to thank you guys for being here. And just like Maddie said, there are a lot of different levels of relationships, and it's hard to know in any of them when to leave. Look for the red flags, set your goals, set your standards, set your boundaries. If you're in an abusive relationship, please seek help, and know that it does get better. We thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.